Man, I really need to start recording decks like literally the minute I put them together and not just after a few days, because the prices keep going up for some of the cards that I try to build with. It's really frustrating. Anyway. All right, so when I was a kid, I got one of those little, basically starter decks. They used to make actual standard starter decks for players, and they were just kind of a joke. They were not very well made, but if you were a new player to Magic, you didn't really know any better. And I got the Affinity one, which I thought was so busted, because the idea of playing all my cards for free, it just didn't seem like how Magic was supposed to be played. That was closer to how Yu-Gi-Oh! Was played, which was my first card game, so of course I just became a kid who loved Affinity, and when I came back to Modern, that's what I started playing. So imagine how I felt when I found out that in Aether Drift, Affinity came back. Today's commander is going to be Mendicant Core Guidelight, a Azorius creature with 3 toughness and power equal to the number of artifacts we control. It also has the Start Your Engines ability, which means that we have a max speed thing going on. Every single turn that we deal damage to our opponents, we increase our speed by 1, max speed is 4, and at max speed we can copy our artifacts, which is fantastic because we get to play cards like Thought Monitor that have affinity for artifacts. What's better than getting 1 artifact almost for free? Getting 2 artifacts almost for free. Anyway, the strategy we are going to be going with is going to be a combination go wide, go tall strategy. Our win condition is going to be Voltron. We want to make sure that we are stacking all kinds of effects on Mendicant Core to win the game. It also just so happens that cards that give him evasion, like flying and trample, usually happen to be artifacts. So let's talk about some of those real quick. We are going to be running 10 evasion pieces in this deck. All of these are cards that will not only give us an amount of artifacts on the board for things like Affinity for artifacts to care about and Mendicant Core to care about, but they will also give them the ability to punch our opponents in the noggin. Cobbled Wings will give him flying. Kite Sail will give him flying. Haunted Cloak will give him vigilance, trample, and haste. Wings of Hubris will give him flying. Zephyr Boots will give him flying and the ability to loot. Fleet Feather Sandals will give him flying. Cliffhaven Kite Sail will give him flying. Cloak of the Bat gives him flying and also gives him haste. And then Onaga Nada and Chariot of Victory can both give him trample, and Onaga Naga gives him 3 power as well. Let's also supplement all of this evasion with a little extra oomph. We are going to be running an Urza Prince of Krug and a Master of Ethereum. Both of these give all of our artifact creatures extra power, and in the case of Urza Prince of Krug, he can also be used to clone artifacts on the board, which is fantastic when you think of what happens when we keep increasing the number of artifacts we have. This allows us to get an ever-increasing board state without even having to draw cards to make it work. But that's not all. You see, when you're playing a Voltron commander, you always run the risk of it getting popped off the board. So let's go ahead and protect our commander with a bunch of artifacts or things that care about artifacts. The Goldforge Thopterix is a flying dinosaur Thopter that also gives all of our legendary permanents Ward 2. Mirror Shield is an equipment that will give our Mendicant Core the ability to be hexproof. Indomitable Archangel will give all of our artifacts we control Shroud, as long as we have 3 or more artifacts. Now, please note, the Indomitable Archangel can cause problems for us. Make sure that you are playing this after you have a sufficient amount of power and everything on Mendicant Core. Make sure you do this after you have given Mendicant Core his equipment. If you do not, the Indomitable Archangel will prevent you from putting any equipment on your Mendicant Core. This is a card to be upgraded into a Swiftfoot Boots as you increase the budget of this deck. But for this version of the deck, it will function okay. Then we have Padim, Consul of Innovation. This gives all of our artifacts hexproof, and at the beginning of our upkeep, if we have the artifact with the highest mana value, which we usually will, we will draw a card. That's protection and draw power all at once. The card is fantastic. And because getting rid of our artifacts is going to be how our opponents stop us, let's add in 2 big recursion pieces. Triumphant Reckoning, which will put all of our artifacts back onto the battlefield from the graveyard, and Dance of the Manse, which will do the same thing if we pay high enough cost into the X. Also, if our Dance of the Manse has more than 6 into it, then it will also turn all those cards into 4/4 creatures as well, which may be a good thing, may be a bad thing, depending on the deck types you are facing. This can cause you to evade Grave Pact style effects if you are facing a deck that is doing that, but if you're dealing with a Super Friends deck that has a lot of board wipes, maybe don't let Dance of the Manse get too terribly high in its mana cost so that you don't lose your cards to those effects. Then we have the Affinity Brigade. We have Aethersworn Sphinx. It has Cascade and Affinity for artifacts, so you're basically going to be paying 2 mana for this, and then Cascading for 9. And Synth Infiltrator, which has Improvise, and the ability to come down as a copy of anything we have. Now, we also need to make sure that Mendicant Core is seeing enough artifacts to be worth our time. So let's make sure we have a bunch of cards to produce artifact tokens on our board as well. Ethereum Spinner will make a token every time we play a card with mana value 4 or greater. Experimental Aviator and Whirler Rogue will make 2 1/1 tokens when they touch the battlefield. Mirror Battlesphere will make 4 1/1 tokens when it touches the battlefield. Master Thopterus will make a 1/1 token when we cast an artifact spell, and Efficient Construction will make a 1/1 token when we cast an artifact spell as well. Then the Digsight Engineer allows us to pay 2 mana to make gigantic construct tokens as alternate win conditions anytime we cast one of our 37 artifact spells. Finally, let's make sure that half the work is done for us by adding in an All That Glitters, which will basically double our commander's power. It'll give it 1/1 for every artifact and enchantment that we control. This way, we'll be able to just say, hey, here's my commander that can hit you for 10. Here's All That Glitters. That number is now going to be, well, 21. Take death and die. And that is the game for 1 player on the table. And that does it for our core strategy. Get lots of artifacts on the board and use their abilities to pump up our commander and then try to swing him at somebody hard, while cloning those artifacts if we have the ability to. That said, we do need to make sure we are drawing plenty of cards, so let's talk about that. We are going to be running a 12-card draw package, and all of these are going to either be artifacts or benefit from artifacts in some way. Cards that have affinity or improvise, or in Reality Heist's case, not affinity, I don't know why this card's worded the way it is. Why is this not just affinity for artifacts? Anyway, let's look at the top 7 cards of our library and put 2 artifact cards from among them into our hand. Universal Surveillance has Improvise, which is just affinity, but we tap the cards to draw X cards, where X is the mana we pay into it, minus 3 bits of mana. Then we have Thought Monitor, has affinity for artifacts and draws us 2 cards when it touches the battlefield. Thopter Shop, which draws us a card every time an artifact leaves the battlefield, or when it dies. Thopter Spy Network draws us a card every time an artifact makes face with an opponent and also makes Thopters in its own right. Research Thief does the same thing without making the Thopters. Tezzeret Betrayer Flesh can lower the activated cost of artifacts by 2, and it lets us draw through our deck if we discard artifacts as well. You can also turn artifacts into creatures. If they are vehicles, they become 4/4s. Honestly, I'm not a super big fan of using this effect too terribly much. He has a great ultimate, but don't ever plan on getting to that ultimate. Ichor Wellspring draws us a card when it touches the battlefield and when it dies. Voyage Home has affinity for artifacts and draws us 3 and gains us 3 life. Interlude of the Mind reveals the top 5 cards of our library, and it does the Fact or Fiction thing where you throw them into 2 piles, and an opponent selects a pile to go into your hand. Then we make an 0/0 Colorless Thopter artifact creature token with 1/1 for every card that was put into our graveyard this way. It's just 1 more mana for a Fact or Fiction that is also giving us a lovely token. Then we have the Everflowing Well, which draws us 2 cards, mills us 2 cards, and then if we have 8 or more cards in the graveyard, we can then flip it into a land that allows us to clone cards whenever we are casting spells with the Myriad Pools itself. It's a nice, convenient little piece of ramp, all things considered. And that does it for what we are doing where draw is concerned. This should allow us to dig through our deck at a decent click, but we do need to make sure that we are keeping our opponents from winning the game as well. So let's talk about our small but still very useful removal package. So So we are, honestly, we're using a very anemic removal package in this deck because I wanted to stay on theme as much as possible. So let's get into it. With Affinity, we have Assert Authority, counters a spell, and it has Affinity for artifacts, so it'll cost the same amount as a usual counter spell. Disruption Protocol, which can counter a spell, and if we tap an artifact, we can lower its cost by 1. Then we have Stoic Rebuttal, which counters a spell, and then we have Metalcraft, which will also cause it to lower its cost by 1 if we happen to have 3 artifacts on the board. Launch Mishap counters a creature or a planeswalker and then makes a 1/1 Thopter. Diversion Units, an artifact creature that can sacrifice itself to counter an instant or sorcery spell. Make Your Move can get rid of any artifact, creature, or enchantment, and Stroke Your Midnight can get rid of any non-land permanent. Resculpt can get rid of any artifact or creature. And then we are going to run a singular board wipe, Organic Extinction. It has Improvise, so it can cost 2 mana if we're tapping artifacts into it, and it blows up all non-artifact creatures. I'd like to run more board wipes than just this, but we are very, very tight on space and utility in this deck. Speaking of that, we do have one more section to get into, and that is going to be our ramp section. Luckily, in Azorius, most of our ramp is already going to be artifacts. So we have Sad Robot to get an artifact? No, just a basic land out of the deck and onto the battlefield when we play it. Mind Stone, which is a lovely 2-mana rock that we can also tap to sacrifice it and draw a card. Sky Diamond and Marble Diamond, which are your basic 2-mana rocks. Guidelight Optimizer, which gives us mana only for artifact spells. Fabrication Foundry does the same thing, but in a different color, and has another ability where it can exile artifacts to kind of birthing pod one out of the graveyard. Commander Sphere is Mind Stone if it costed 1 more mana, but didn't cost 1 to sacrifice itself. And Voyager Wickwelder makes all of our artifacts cost 1 less to cast. This is the same ability found on Foundry and Spectre. And finally, not ramp, but definitely mana selection, Mycosynth Wellspring comes onto the battlefield and allows us to grab a land from our deck that is basic and put it into our hand, both when it touches the battlefield and when it dies. Then we have probably the most anemic land package I've ever produced. 17 islands and 10 plains, with our dual lands being Prairie Stream, Exotic Orchard, Command Tower, Port Town, Skyclad Expanse, Irrigated Farmland, and Azorius Chancellery, with the dual land Razor Tide Bridge here as well. We have the fetching lands of Escape Tunnel, Terramorphic Expanse, and Evolving Wilds. No Myriad Landscape, because our commander only costs 2 anyway. And then our utility lands of Pit of Offerings and Scene of the Crimes. Pit of Offerings gets rid of any problematic card in our opponent's graveyards, while Scene of the Crimes is an artifact land, so none of the other text on it really matters. It just gives us more power for Mendicant Core. And that does it for the deck. That is, honestly, there's some things about this that I would change if I had more of a budget, and we'll get into that when we talk about upgrades. But for now, let's talk about playing the deck so we can see kind of how this thing runs. All right, I'm willing to risk it with this hand. There's only 2 mana, but there is a Zephyr Boots, and our commander only costs 2. I'm willing to run with it. What the hell? What's the worst that could happen? Let's open up with Port Town, tap it, and play Zephyr Boots. Going into the next turn, let's play a Plains, tap 2, and here is our commander. Now our speed is set to 1. Next turn comes up, we're going to play an island, and we are going to tap that island and this Plains to put the Zephyr Boots on our commander. Now whenever it swings, we will be able to draw a card and discard a card, and it has flying. So let's go ahead and punch somebody real quick for 3 with Mendicant Core, or 2 with Mendicant Core, and then draw a card and discard a card. Looking at the cards in our hand, I think that the thing we can do with the least is this Universal Surveillance. Yeah, let's get rid of Universal Surveillance. Then we go into our next turn. Turn 4, we'll play an island. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's play Pakeem out. Pakeem will give our commander hexproof, and now we can swing at somebody again. Our speed is 3. Next turn comes up. We have an island out, and we're going to be able to get our max speed up really well. Now, here's where we have an interesting choice. We can use the Research Thief, but I don't think we should. I think what we should be doing right now is staying under the radar. Let's pay 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's play Tezzeret. And Tezzeret says the first activated ability of an artifact we activate each turn costs 1 less to activate. Let's go ahead and plus him by 1 to draw 2, and we'll discard this Thopter Shop. Is that what we want to get rid of? Yeah, the Thopter Shop can be the thing that goes. Now we'll hit somebody with Mendicant Core. We have max speed, and we pass to their turn. It is very unlikely Tezzeret survives. Nobody really lets Tezzeret survive more than a turn, so we're going to go ahead and assume he goes to the graveyard. As we go to our next turn, we play Prairie Stream, and we are going to tap out. We've kept our commander really, really low to the ground, but it's time to start doing fun stuff. We are going to swing. Well, we're not going to tap out. We're going to play like we actually know what we're doing. We're swinging at somebody with Mendicant Core. It's going to be hitting for 2 damage, and they're going to be like, that's fine. I don't care. So then we are going to tap 5, flash in Research Thief, and tap 1 to clone Research Thief with our commander. With 2 Research Thieves out, we are going to draw 2 cards when our commander hits, and we pass to our opponents. Now our commander's power is sitting at 4. Going into our next turn, we are at turn 7, and how many times can I do this a turn? Whenever I cast one. Okay, we're just gonna do lots of that. All right, whenever an artifact creature deals combat... Oh, we can do lots of stuff. We can do lots of stuff. This is fantastic. Let's keep our counter spells in our hand. Let's swing out, and let's assume that an opponent is gonna fog us. It's very likely that happens. We're just gonna pay 2 and Stoic Rebuttal that away. And then all of our creatures make face with our opponent, drawing us 1-2 for the first one, 1-2 for the second one, and 1-2 for the third one. This gives us just a really massive hand right now. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 artifacts on the board. Not enough to make Ethersworn's Phoenix work well. Let's pay 1, 2, and 1 for the clone. Let's get the diversion unit out. And we get to spawn the diversion unit. So now we have 2 counter spells at the ready. And as we end our turn, let's go ahead and discard lands out of our hand that we do not need. Let's move to turn 7. Our Mendicant Core can hit for a lot more now. But, man, I wish that cloning Ethersworn Sphinx mattered. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Man, it doesn't really do anything. Vigilance, Trample, and Haste. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's play Haunted Cloak, and let's clone it. And then we'll pay 1, 2, and clone Ethersworn Sphinx. We only get 1 Cascade off of this, and that Cascade is for a Disruption Protocol, which does not help us. But that's fine. We'll pay... We're going to hold... it depends on what our opponents have. I really want this Ethersworn Sphinx to hit an opponent, but I don't think we needed to. I think we can swing with all of this, and our commander is hitting for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Our commander's hitting for 10 right now, and we can sack these to get counter spells if we need. So we're going to be able to draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? No. We draw 10 off of this setup. We draw 10 off of this setup. Ah! Oh, God, it's gross. It's gross. We don't need this. We don't need this. We don't need this. We don't need a lot of the things in our hand right now. We don't need Intrude the Mind. We don't need these lands. And Cloak of the Bat's still going to be useful later. Whirler Rogue is not super important for us right now, as we have a good board. So we'll just go ahead and say penultimate turn. Let's see if we can get our commander up to 21. All we really want. Sad Robot. Good card. Land for turn. Hobbled Wings. Voyage Home. This will draw us lots of cards. We can board wipe with Organic Extinction, but that makes us lose Hexproof, and I'm not super confident that losing Hexproof is the move. So we'll pay 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We'll get 2 Sad Robots out, which will let us grab 2 lands out of the deck onto the battlefield tapped. That does make our commander a bit bigger. Let's pay 1, 2, and clone this Cloak of the Bat. This can give creatures haste. We can't get our commander up to lethal. It's got 14 power right now, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's got 14 power, so it's lethaling a player, but we don't get to select who we lethal right now, which is unfortunate. But Just for giggles, let's see what happens when we swing with all of these and we get our draws. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 creatures and 2 instances of Research Thief. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 draws. And we're going to discard this and counter a spell, just in case somebody tried to fog us. Screw you, no fogs. 18 card hand. Deck probably wants a Reliquary Tower. This is a lot. This is a lot. We did lethal a person, and we have a hand that is a bit too big. Let's talk about upgrading this deck. So as you noticed in the gameplay section, this deck does run into a problem, and that is that it does not get to enough artifacts fast enough without us having to kind of trip over ourselves. Let's fix that by adding in a bunch of artifact lands. Seed of the Synod and Ancient Den are the first 2 I would grab, and then after that, things like Darksteel Citadel and Treasure Vault would also be fantastic. Just as many artifact lands as you can find to go into the deck will do you a lot of good in upgrading this thing. Let's also, speaking of lands, let's add in Amonkhet Raceway and Maragonda Raceway. The Maragonda Raceway will almost always be live because we have Start Your Engines on our commander, and Amonkhet Raceway is great because it will give our commander haste in times of need. Then let's add a Mechanized Production so that we can have more artifacts on the board. It does also give us an alternate win con. Our draw package will be better served by having a Thoughtcast in our deck as well. Speaking of drawing, we definitely want a Reliquary Tower in this kind of deck because if we have a good setup, we will just have tons of cards in hand, as you saw. So let's go ahead and put this in here as well. I know that there's a lot of talk about Reliquary Tower being a noob trap, and I agree in most circumstances, but a deck like Affinity really benefits from being able to vomit its hand out and being able to hold onto its hand when it can't vomit it. And if you do happen to have a lot of those cards in the graveyard from having to discard them, Emery Lurker of the Lot can help solve the problem of not being able to play them. Let's also put a Kappa Cannoneer in. It's another good alternate win con, and cloning Kappa Cannoneer with our commander is just juicy. And let's make sure that our ramp package is better helped with an Ethereum Sculptor. Let's also supplement the draw package with not only the Thoughtcast, but an Esper Sentinel. Esper Sentinel is a 1-mana card, comes down before the commander, and draws you tons of cards throughout the game. I promise you, this thing overperforms. But it's $32, so maybe make it the last card on your list that you go when you're upgrading it. Lasheel Clockwork Scholar can also draw you some cards, and it lets our commander circumvent the side effect of having only 3 toughness all game. Finally, let's make sure that we have a Riptide Gearhulk in here as well. Again, lower priority because it costs a lot of money, but as a double striker with prowess, it really benefits from us being able to drop lots and lots of artifacts on the board. We can drop our equipment down, and those are all non-creature spells, which will power up its prowess. But the biggest thing is when it enters, for every opponent, put a non-land permanent they have on top of their library. Well, third from the top, which basically means you're not seeing it in most games. So being able to get 2 copies of this on the board is 6 cards going away for 6 mana. That is 1 mana per card that is leaving. That is a fantastic rate of return. I think Riptide Gearhulk is a great card for a deck like this. I just really wish it didn't cost as much money as it did. And that does it for the deck. I hope you guys had a fun time with it. It's one of the ones that I built a few weeks ago and really sat on, wondering when I was going to make the video for it. Having active tornadoes in your area definitely didn't help with all that. That said, let me know what you all think in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you haven't already, please consider following me over on Blue Sky, subscribing to this channel, checking me out on Patreon, and supporting me there if you would be so kind, buying the channel playmat if you want to rep my channel, checking out my main channel where I talk about politics if you care about current events, and checking out my live streams most Mondays and Thursdays, or most Mondays through Thursdays. Not right now, obviously, because again, tornadoes in area made it hard to do things, so I'm playing a lot of catch up right now. That all said, thank you all for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope all of you are having a wonderful time. Insert end video tagline here. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really could not do any of this without all of you. Those of you watching, and especially those of you who support me on Patreon. I wanted to go ahead and take a minute to thank all of you who do that, because with YouTube being what it is these days, I really cannot do this full time without the support from each and every one of you. Those people would be Red Joker, Purple Poundini, Jemshin, Britzkrieg, Jupe the Malignant, Michael, Ravalern, Mabbity Babbity, Astral Frontier, Tales of Atonement, Nixie Chan, Kiri Artemis, Victorian Alchemist, I'm not saying the last part of that, and you know that, Arcton Arclacier, Kiratorian, Dren Hadamata, Jordan M, John L, Lord Bleck, Smiling Game Master, and Fireshard. Thank you so very much. But since you're here, why not go ahead and try watching another one? There should be one that's on the screen right now. And if you are a patron of mine, I wanted to go ahead and thank you again for all of your support. There is still a video you could press though, if you'd like. I would appreciate it just a little bit.